Welcome to Psychology Today. I'm your host, Ann Morrow. This is a show about bicycling in general and specifically about bicycle safety. Thank you for joining us. I want to thank our crew in the control booth, and we've got a full crew tonight that helps us put on this show. Without them, we could not be here. And we have two segments for you. We're going to start with our first guest, Mychal Tetteh from the Community Cycling Center. And you may have heard about the Community Cycling Center in the Portland area, but you may be surprised to learn just what a vast organization it really is. So we'll get some insights into that from Mychal. Our second guest is Martina Fahrner of Clever Cycles, and we'll learn about why the name of the shop is Clever Cycles and just how clever it is. Thanks again to all our viewers for joining us, and let's get started with Mychal. Mychal Tetteh here he is the Chief Executive Officer of Community Cycling Center, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me in.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, born and raised here in Portland, Oregon. I went to Metropolitan Learning Center K-8, which is in Northwest Portland, and graduated from Benson High School with a major in computer software technology. I went to Tuskegee University, where I studied forestry of all things, and had the opportunity to do a student exchange with Oregon State. So I spent some time in Corvallis, go Beavs, and I returned to Portland in 2005, and I began working at the Community Cycling Center as soon as I got back.
And what kind of cycling do you enjoy? How did you get into the Community Cycling Center and the bicycling world?
Well, I've really always enjoyed riding my bike. It started when my father would take me up Mount Tabor, which is a place in southeast Portland. And I actually spent the first couple of weeks every day after school following behind my dad, and I would actually cry most of the way there. And after a couple of weeks, I realized that I could get to the top without the tears. And after that, I really fell in love with riding bikes.
Well, that's quite a story. And so what riding do you do now? I know you're busy, but what do you like to do riding wise?
Well, I like to ride to and from a lot of the meetings that I have all around town. Enjoy long distance riding on the weekends. I actually went on Cycle Oregon for the first time this year.
Oh, nice.
That was a lot of fun. And although I only found out I was going 3 or 4 days before I left, I was able to get some rides in and ended up having a great time out there.
Glad to hear it, because that boy, you had a good story. That's great.
Right.
It could have turned out totally differently. What's your history then with Community Cycling Center? You've been with them since 2005, you said, and what did you do for them starting then? Yeah,
great question. I actually started in 2005 after not being able to find a job at another bike shop in town. Not only did I get an opportunity to work at the center, but I was offered opportunities there and an opportunity to grow and learn. When I first started, I was doing retail sales and outreach, which means to a great extent I was barely qualified to sell inner tubes. But after I was able to build some skill there, I ended up being the retail manager, the shop manager, and I ended my tenure in 2011 as the shop operations director.
Boy, that is a nice story of growth, so you really did learn and grow.
Absolutely. By the time I left in 2011, it was only because I wanted to help to support Portland's only nonprofit grocery store, and that's the Village Market out in New Columbia.
Oh, okay.
I like to tell people it's the best kept secret in Portland because it's a little bit off the beaten path and it's relatively new. But it's one of the best projects around, and it does a lot of things to help people find approachable, affordable, healthy grocery stores.
Well, that is good for that and for that area. And so now you've only been back with Community Cycling Center for how long?
Actually, just the last 50 days.
Yeah, you're new back as CEO. And give us a snapshot of the Community Cycling Center itself. There's a lot of different programs. It's I don't know, quite a big organization.
Right. We're unique in the sense that we're an active transportation advocacy group that runs programs for adults and for children, as well as operating a bike shop where we deliver our mission every day. That's a big part of what we do. We try to create an approachable, culturally sensitive environment that allows people from all walks of life to get connected to bicycling. We also run programs for children in school and after school, and we do programs for adults to help them stay connected to their community and get to and from work in a sustainable way.
So you have youth programs, for example.
Yeah.
Tell us, and you mentioned that, tell us a little bit about some of the youth programs that you have. You say before and after, and you have summer programs as well, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. If you see kids riding around town a dozen at a time, like little ducklings, that's us.
I have seen that, okay.
Wonderful. And that's our summer camp. We haven't announced all the classes for this summer yet, but keep your eye on our website if you're interested in finding out more about those. We also do after-school programs with some of our son schools called our Bike Club. And in Bike Club, kids have an opportunity to earn lights, lock, pumps, and they learn a bunch of different things about bicycle maintenance and safe riding. And by the end of 6 weeks, they're able to earn the bike that they've been riding throughout the course of the class.
Nice. And a helmet's always included with all of this too, I assume.
Absolutely.
We all believe in, well, it's the law,
Yeah.
but we want our kids to be safe.
Certainly.
I know you do too. And we'll get into more depth about the holiday bike drive, but that's definitely kid-oriented.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk about that. What is the I Ride campaign?
Well, this was an opportunity for us to show people from all walks of life, everyday people who ride a bike, because oftentimes we find that there are folks that don't necessarily identify as cyclists. They're just people who ride bikes. And we wanted to show all of the different people that choose bicycles as a way to stay connected and healthy, and that they didn't have to wear spandex, they didn't need to be on a really flashy bike, they just needed to choose to ride bikes.
Okay. Now, that probably fits in with your adult programs. You have classes, as you said, and you also you have Create a Commuter, that
Right.
sort of thing.
Yeah, in our Create a Commuter program, we work with a host of different agencies that help to support adults that are in transition between employment opportunities and can use a bicycle to get connected to employment opportunities, get to and from work, get to and from the grocery store. And we do clinics where those adults have an opportunity to earn bikes, learn some of those same basic riding skills, and they get a fully outfitted commuter bike in the end with lights, locks, of course a helmet, fenders, and a chance to learn some basic bicycle maintenance tips.
I imagine that some adults really come into this just, I don't know, kind of flummoxed about how I could ride my bike, but how do I do that? And they don't know a route, how to use maybe public transportation as part of their commute. And so you help them overcome all these obstacles, I take it.
Yeah, one of the really great tools that we have behind the bike shop actually is a mock-up of the bus and bike racks that they have on TriMet buses.
Great.
So that folks without the pressure of a bus full of people waiting have an opportunity to figure out what it's like to work with some of the mechanics that we have on the front of those buses.
Ideal, because you're right, that is so stressful, that first time with the bus driver, and they're all looking at you and you're struggling with things. That'd be nice to have a test run.
Absolutely.
Good idea. And you also do the bike maintenance with adults, help them learn to maintain the bike too.
Yeah, bicycle maintenance classes that we run Tuesdays and Thursdays on a regular basis at the bike shop. But we also have opportunities for people to come in and volunteer. And when you come in on the first Tuesday night, which is our volunteer orientation, you get an opportunity to learn more about the organization. But thereafter, you can drop in and you have opportunities to not only help us build kids' bikes for our holiday bike drive, but you can also have an opportunity to work on wheels, help us assemble new bikes for our programs, as well as help out with other things around the bike shop, which can be a really great experience for people that are starting to build their skills as mechanics.
Right. And I would think it's just empowering
Absolutely.
to learn how to maintain your bike. And depending on your life skills,
Right.
it would take you a long ways, perhaps.
And a lot of people don't have an opportunity to use all of the resources and space that's available in a bike shop. They may have tools at home, and they may have some tools in their garage, but an opportunity to get in and use all of the tools and all of the resources that are available in a bike shop is one of the things that makes the community cycling center a unique place to volunteer.
Yeah, I can see where that would be the case. Now, where is this bike shop located?
It's on 17th and Alberta Street, right there at 1700. Big mural on the side. If you're approaching from the west, you'll be able to see that mural, and it's a lot easier to see than our sign.
Yes, absolutely, it is. And so it's a true bike shop. It's community cycling center, but you wouldn't want people to be put off by that concept. It's a bike shop.
Absolutely. It's a bike shop unlike any other.
Yeah.
But we hold a really high standard with what we're able to do with the bike shop. It's a community resource, and for that, it means that we need to be extremely responsible with how we make the most of our opportunity to deliver our mission of creating access to bicycling every day.
Now, I know one thing I've done there is gotten a used fork. I needed a fork for one of my bikes, and I was able to pick up a used one there. So some of these older bikes that you get, that people donate, you just kind of cannibalize because maybe you can't rebuild them or make them good for a child. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely.
And then you have the parts.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that really sets us apart from any other bike shop is the variety of used parts that we have available. It allows us to provide opportunities for people to repair bikes as opposed to needing to afford a brand new one. But we do the best that we can to reuse, repurpose, redistribute, and refurbish all the bicycles that have been donated to us. And ultimately, the worst thing that'll happen to bikes and parts that get donated is that they end up being recycled. But we're able to reuse the bikes that we have donated to us at a rate that's over 80%.
I guess I'd heard that about you. That's interesting. And you do have bikes for sale then as well.
Absolutely, and bikes at every price point. We have as-is bikes that have clearly marked repair tags that will allow you to repair the bike yourself if you'd like, or get it repaired by us, or just one repair or the other that you would like to see, which it means that a person can buy a bike for as little as $35. We also offer fully refurbished bikes that come with a 90-day warranty and a 30-day return policy inside, and those aren't tuned up as much as they're completely overhauled.
Nice. That really gives a lot more people an opportunity to have a bicycle. That's really great. Now, your mission is stated to broaden access to bicycling and its benefits. So how does that mission guide you on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it means that we need to help encourage more people from all walks of life to ride bikes. The statistics of bicycle mode share in the city of Portland indicate that ridership is flatlining around 6%. And if we're going to see ridership up above 10%, 20% and beyond, it means that we're going to need to work with communities where people are disproportionately dependent on transit, disproportionately dependent on pedestrian and bicycle modes in order to get to where they live, work, and play. And I think that there is a lot of opportunity out there for us to get more people riding bikes more often.
So why do you feel that way? Why do you feel that more people need to be on bikes? Certainly there's the environment and all that. Why do you feel so strongly that we need to have a larger percentage of our population using bicycles?
Well, when you consider the basic needs hierarchy, food, clothes, shelter, I think that we could debate what numbers 4 and 5 are, but I think access to affordable health care and access to active transportation options would duke it out for 4 and 5. And when you consider how much of the environment outside of our door is the built environment that we rely on for getting wherever it is that we're going, and realize that whether you are rolling your wheelchair or you hop up out of your chair to walk, you're a pedestrian and you're participating in active transportation, having the infrastructure that we need to get around safely, to navigate city streets with 2,500-pound cars everywhere is really important. And the more that we can get people out and engaged and experiencing the world on a bicycle, I think the better for everyone the world's going to be.
I would certainly agree with you. I think the idea of being encapsulated in a car, you don't really enjoy the neighborhood and the people,
Right.
the smells, the whole environment.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many other issues as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. But that's a big task.
Yeah, it is. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, an opportunity like working at the Community Cycling Center is a great privilege and an amazing opportunity. The fact that we're using bicycles as a tool for empowerment and vehicle for change means that I get an opportunity to play with bikes on a regular basis too, and that's a lot of fun.
That would be. And I know that you have some good stories, some good people stories about introducing people to bicycles, and it changes their lives, and they're able to use the bike, and it does just what you intended. So
Absolutely.
So it does work. Tell us a little bit about your understanding of the Barriers to Bicycling program. I think that kind of fits in with what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. In 2010, the Community Cycling Center begun to ask really pointed questions about why some people choose bicycling and why others don't. And with a really intense, appreciative inquiry within communities that are historically underrepresented in cycling, we were able to find some pretty interesting results. The first and most important, I think, is that we found that barriers to bicycling were culturally specific. We found that for a Latino man, his barriers were different than that of an African American woman, and were still different than that of a Caucasian man. But the most astounding and often unreported finding of the Understanding Barriers to Bicycling report was the fact the #1 barrier to bicycling was actually having a bicycle.
Yeah, I can see. And if you don't have a lot of money,
Right.
and you don't know if this is going to work anyway,
Sure.
your whole family is going to be against you getting it because
Right.
this is like a toy. But
Yeah.
no, it's transportation.
And it had it provided us an opportunity to take a look at some of the assumptions and some of the biases that we have around why people choose, and some of what people are facing in their day-to-day lives that prevent them from choosing bicycles as the way that they get around.
Sure. So, boy, you have to have some really good conversations with people to help overcome those then.
Yeah, absolutely. But the nice thing is then, empowered with the knowledge that the barriers can be culturally specific and they can be place-based, we're able to customize our approach to delivering our mission with our community partners in such a way that it's informed by what we've learned already.
That's really great. Now, let's go to the traditional holiday bike drive.
Yes.
This is a big thing that you do every year, the holiday bike drive. Why don't you tell us how that works?
Well, it's amazing. And if you can imagine 400 children in a huge atrium in a secret location. Can't give out the location.
Okay.
But receiving their first bike early in December. People from all walks of life, different nationalities, different denominations, but the wonder of kids not only getting a bike, but getting a helmet, getting a chance to ride that bike through a safety course, having an opportunity to pick that bike out of a whole line of bikes that our volunteers have invested thousands of hours over the course of the year. That's really what it's all about for us as an organization.
I talk to a lot of adults and talk about what was your first bike. They remember their first bike and how
Absolutely.
that made them feel. It is a real monumentous occasion in a person's life very often for so many reasons. And so how fun to take part in that in so many children's lives. And so you do have a lot of volunteers. Tell us about these bicycles that are refurbished and stuff. Where do they come from? And volunteer hours spent tuning them up and cleaning them up.
Absolutely. We get bicycles from all over. We've gotten them from as far away as California, here on the West Coast, and we have people from all over Oregon that come in to help us fix them up. They're mechanics, they're some folks that are retired. We have old people, younger people, really just everyone is focused on sharing some of their time and some of their talent to help make sure the kids have a wonderful experience during the holiday bike drive. But some of them are brand new out of the box. We've had a bicycle shipped to us from as far away as New York, actually, and it's just wonderful to see people who are committed to ensuring that kids are going to get exactly the bike that they're looking for.
How do you find the recipients of these bicycles?
It's a great question, and we've actually gotten better at it over time. We work with our community partners to identify those families that have the greatest need and that have kids that are in the age range that we're looking for. And we work with those community organizations in a really equitable and transparent way to help match kids with the opportunity to get the bike during the holiday bike drive.
Do you think that sometimes a barrier to bicycling for an adult is that they never had a bicycle as a child, and we're embarrassed that we don't know how to do something so that most people know how to do? So sometimes that might be a factor. I mean, if you make a child a cyclist, maybe throughout their whole life they can be a cyclist, and that would be something they turn to.
Absolutely, and that's something that we're really focused on, not just with the holiday bike drive, but with our bike clubs, because a lot of times when kids get to be that tweenage age, right, they start being a little bit too cool for riding bikes. They start feeling a little bit of that peer pressure, but I'm hoping that we can change that around.
It seems like if you could do it anywhere, Portland would be a place that you could accomplish that.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Because I would think there's a lot less stigma.
I would hope so.
And especially with the helmets.
Right.
That seems to be okay with the kids.
Absolutely.
I hope.
Yeah.
So we've talked about some of the specific programs that you have. How do you see these fitting into the Portland Metro cycling community? How do you see yourself building into the infrastructure of Portland and bicycling and all that?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I think one of the most important factors that we're able to bring to the cycling in Portland is really the cyclists that are often overlooked and the stories that are often untold. When you consider communities where people are largely dependent on active transportation to get where they're going, those are the places that also suffer disproportionately from a lack of resource. And those are the places where having a really potent impact and significant investment in active transportation infrastructure is going to make it easier for folks to ride the bus, easier for folks to walk, and a much safer place for everyone to ride a bike. And an opportunity to get out and tell those stories, work with those community members, and find ways to help them get engaged and ensure that they're able to see outcomes in their community that are going to allow them to ride their bikes more often is really what drives us.
So I can see the health benefits for anyone using a bicycle as part of their commute, and maybe economic, that a person could take a job that they might not otherwise take or seek because they know that they can get to that job, and so they maybe can earn more money for themselves or their family because of a bicycle.
Absolutely.
And it all trickles down or up or
Certainly. I think when you consider people who are riding the bus or riding the MAX and using a bicycle, it can be a solution for the first mile and for the last mile when they have to get to their job. And I think a bicycle is one of those really flexible tools that can really empower people.
Yes. Okay, nice. So what motivates you, Mychal, to devote your time and energy to the Community Cycling Center, and why are you so passionate about Community Cycling Center?
Well, I believe, as the Cycling Center does, that the bicycle is a tool for empowerment and a vehicle for change, and I think that if you can kind of scale that thinking up, the Community Cycling Center as an organization is that same kind of tool. It offers so much and costs so little for the kind of impact that you're able to deliver. It seems and continues to be, in my mind, one of the most relevant ways for me to spend my time. And I know that sounds really serious, but time is something that I take really, really personally, really seriously. And I think that when I consider how to spend my time and my efforts building a more equitable, more accessible active transportation system and creating more riders and providing more opportunities for people to engage in active transportation seems like the way to spend my time.
I can see where it would be really rewarding. You see individuals really benefiting from your programs, and that's certainly something that's very encouraging to you. What kinds of safety things come into play in all your programs? I know you talked about teaching the kids how to ride at the holiday bike drive and the helmets and all that. What kinds of things do you do in regards to safety?
Well, safety is a big part of what we do. It's a critical part of the way that we deliver our programs, and when it comes down to it, it's the buzzword for all of our staff. And it's not just about risk management, it's about helping to foster a culture of safety, as opposed to safety which can often be stigmatized as something that's not cool or something not to do. Safety is the kind of thing for the cycling center that's fun and allows fun to continue.
Well, that's good to know. So yeah, because we need to know the laws and wear the helmets and know how to handle ourselves out on the road. You want people to be safe. So
Absolutely.
That's great. So if I like to ask guests this question: if money or volunteers were not an issue, you could just do anything, what would you implement at Community Cycling Center?
If money was no object, what would we implement? I had given this some thought earlier, and I think that a chance to put bicycle programming in every high school in the region and have bicycle racing teams in high school, the same way they got basketball teams, to not only help foster a culture of cycling in high schools, but also potentially to have additional programming for high schools where kids can earn credit either before school or during school or after school related to bicycle maintenance and repair. I think that would be what I'd do.
Interesting. And I think we've seen some success with a little bit of that concept of helping kids get into bicycling and have that. It helps keep them out of trouble. It keeps them focused on something else.
Right.
Gives them the exercise and all that. So that's interesting. Not an answer I might have expected. Good for you. Where do you envision community cycling in the next 5 years, and what are you going to do to get it there?
Well, I see the organization in more communities throughout the Portland metro region. I hope that we're able to reach further into East Portland. I'm hoping that we're able to reach further out into Washington County. I'm hoping that we're going to help existing programs and existing community groups build their capacity to provide active transportation options. I spoke earlier about the needs hierarchy for people, and there are a lot of groups that have their programs and their mission really reflect the needs of their constituents, and active transportation and bicycling don't really rise as an opportunity that they're able to capitalize on. I'm hoping that the Cycling Center is able to lend its capacity to help promote bicycling in groups that could really stand to benefit from being able to prioritize active transportation and cycling as part of the way they deliver their mission.
Well, you've certainly been growing, so you must have some good ideas, and your success says a lot. If there's one thing that you want our viewers to come away with, what is that?
Well, when you think about how you get around and the impact that you have, think first about leaving no trace. Think first about the decisions that you make, and think about how you can get out there and ride your bike a little bit more often. And not only if you're not riding your bike, if you're already riding your bike, see what you can do to reach out to someone else. I think word of mouth is a great way to help business, but word of mouth is also a great way to help encourage behavior in others. So if I could leave people with one thing, it'd be not just ride your bike, but help someone else ride a bike.
So we could all kind of live by your mission statement a little bit as individuals too.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Mychal, for joining us. I'm so glad we were able to have you as a representative of Community Cycling Center on the show. I've learned a lot, and am a fan of Community Cycling Center, so thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Well, let's go to a video, and we've got a safety video. Northwest Bicycle Safety Council likes to promote safe riding, so let's watch a video and we'll come back with our second guest.
Bike safe, bike smart. Hi, my name is Alexander.
And my name's Elizabeth.
Over the next few minutes, we're going to have some fun and talk about some pretty important stuff.
Some of it you've heard before, but it never hurts to hear it again.
And again.
And again. So here we go. Did you know that bikes are considered vehicles?
Meaning you have to follow the same rules as someone driving a car.
And why do we have rules?
To keep us safe and to keep things moving smoothly.
That means when you ride in the street, ride in a straight line with traffic on the right side of the road. Riding against traffic is dangerous. It puts you where the driver of a car isn't expecting you.
Meaning he might turn in front of you, or worse, into you.
And you know what that means.
Ouch.
And if you're riding with friends, always ride single file. And here's something else to remember. Always obey traffic lights and signs, and pay attention to lane markings.
When you see one of these, stop. When you see one of these, yield. Traffic might be coming from one side or the other.
Now, since your bike doesn't come with turn signals,
use your hands.
But always check for traffic before you turn. Do this to turn left, this to turn right. Also, some states allow you to do this to turn right, and do this to stop.
Did you know that 70% of car-bicycle crashes happen at driveways or intersections?
So before you enter a street, stop, look left, right, then left again. And use caution at intersections. Be careful. Don't be a statistic.
Hey, now a word about staying alert.
If you're riding your bike, Xander.
Hey.
If you're riding your bike, leave your headphones at home or stick them in a backpack. Because if you put them on your head, you won't be able to hear the traffic around you.
Bike safe, bike smart.
Well, that's a great video, and I hope that our adult viewers can take advice from children because they had some good input on how to ride a bike safely, and so listen to their advice. It'll keep you safer. And we're back now with our guest, Martina Fahrner, and she's from Clever Cycles. I don't know why I'm stumbling over your last name.
Don't worry about it.
And she's an owner of Clever Cycles, which is in Portland. And welcome, Martina.
Thank you, Ann.
Thanks for joining us. So let's start by you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, about myself. We were actually comparing notes like outside about our first bike. I did have a red bike too, as some of your crew members, but I really loved my red bike, and I started to ride it when I was 4, and it was on my way to preschool, and my grandma would walk me, and I would ride right next to her. And I had a great time.
And you're still into cycling?
I'm still into cycling after years.
What kinds of riding do you like to do now?
Actually, I'm mostly a commuter, and I am also a cargo cyclist, meaning that I don't have a car. So going shopping, I have to do by bike, and that's when I normally use a long bike or buckfeet, one of the, cargo bikes, to load my 3, 4, 5 bags of groceries up and carry them home. But actually, most of my bikes, I have to say, have cargo capacity. Even my little commuter bike.
Well, you'd have to. You'd have to be pretty versatile.
Yeah. And it's, I think the ideal cycling that we're preaching at Clever Cycles is that it's not a toy. It's not a specific bike, but it should be a bike that you could use as a car. So you go to work, you drop off your kids at school, and on the way back you pick up some groceries, and you should be all able to do that by bike.
We'll talk a little bit more about that, about thinking that way, in a few minutes. So you're mostly a commuter, but we've talked about you were saying maybe in 2014 you're going to be a Seattle to Portland rider, and
I was challenged. I was challenged.
So, you know, your bikes are for functionality in large part, and so riding a long distance and for a whole day. What bike would you do that on?
Well, actually, it's really interesting because my first really longer bike tour I did on a small folding bike with 16-inch wheels, and it was from Cumberland in Maryland down to Washington, and it was along the C&O Canal. And my ex-husband actually regularly tours on a folding bike too, and his last big tour was from Portland to San Francisco. But the Seattle-Portland, I actually hope to do on my Surly, so a more conventional bike. It's a little cross-check that I all like styled up, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use a more conventional bike for that, but I hope to do it in skirt, just to give a certain touch of special to it.
That's a very Portlandy touch. Good. Now, tell us about your store, Clever Cycles. What motivated you to name the store Clever Cycles?
Well, actually, I had to think about that. The idea was my ex-husband and I had a small business, an electro assist called the Stoke Monkey, and our firm was called Clever Chimp. And we just started to get some traction. And then we met our business partners, another couple, the Mullins, and we were kind of trying to keep the name close. And so Clever Cycles, like seeing all these smart cargo bikes that are coming out of Europe, and some actually also coming out of California, kind of gave us the movement to call ourselves Clever Cycles. So yes, smart bikes, Clever Cycles.
Yeah, and it's a very fitting name, I think. When did you open your store?
We had actually in June we had our 7th anniversary, so it was in 2007, and it was very hush hush. It was very cool because we didn't even open our shop yet. We were in the basement of the building that we are in now, and we would deliver bikes to street corners and to garages. And my 3-year-old son at that point, when I was riding around with my cargo bike, he learned actually to yell at people, "Where's your bike from?" "It's from Clever Cycles!" So he was my little PR manager.
Yeah. And where is your store located? You're on
9th and
Hawthorne.
Hawthorne, across from the Lucky Lab.
Oh, right, across from the Lucky Lab.
Across from the Lucky Lab.
And you have a nice corner location,
Yes, we
so
do.
Headed east up Hawthorne, it's very
so
visible.
all the commuters who are shooting down Hawthorne, coming down the Hawthorne Bridge, are regularly seeing our windows.
Yes.
And it has been really wonderful. And it's also great. When we started, like the difference from how many bicycle commuters we see going by every night, it is just amazing. And you know, sometimes it's a little bit scary because they weave between the cars, and it's a really busy. You picked me up
I
this
picked
afternoon,
you up, yes.
and it's really busy. But the numbers are just wonderful, and sometimes, especially now when it gets dark, you see like this wave of bike lights coming down the bridge, this never-ending chain. It's so exhilarating.
Yes, and to be a part of that.
Yes, it is wonderful.
What is your mission statement?
Well, when I get asked that, I normally say we are a family and cargo bike shop. We sell utilitarian bicycles. So we don't have road bikes, we don't have mountain bikes.
Right.
Most of our bikes take kid seats. Nearly all of our bike have bike racks, either come with bike racks or are bike rack compatible. You can also add front racks, and we really try to sell as complete bikes as possible, meaning that how you see the bike on the floor with the fenders, with the back rack, with the bell, the lights and everything, that's how you get it.
So you've helped the consumer get a head start on things. They don't need to figure all this out. You know what they need.
Yes, and so we normally, when we have a sales talk, we normally try where they live. We ask what they want to do with their bike, because it's really important.
Yes.
So for instance, if you just want to ride in the park just for a recreation, it's very different than when you want to commute from Alameda Ridge down to, down to downtown Portland,
Yeah.
because you need more gears. And so we try to shush that out. And then the question, do you have kids? Do you want to have the kids on the bikes? Do you need to carry something with you? There are people who prefer to ride in Lycra, but people who really need to dress up for work, so they put Lycra or sweats on for their way to work and then get dressed at their office. So that means that you have to have clean clothes, your laptop, your books. You have to have that with you. And so to know all that really helps you to pick out the best bike for them. And talking them through the different choices, what to do, is quite an education process.
I'm
fun.
sure. My boss and I have these conversations all the time, that a person should buy a bicycle with the most versatility that they possibly can, and it seems like you help people kind of see a bit broader picture than maybe they came in your store with.
On the other hand, what you sometimes have to think about, you can't run at least I can't, but you can't run in high heels. So sometimes you have to split it up. If you want to do 20 miles really fast, and also want to put your kid on a bike, sometimes you have to make compromise.
Yes.
And sometimes, by God, you have to buy 2 bikes.
Yes. Well, and that's certainly true.
It's fine
That's a good analogy. Can't run in high heels.
The other thing. The other thing is also, as we get attached to our bikes. So, if you have your carbon fiber expensive road bike, it's nothing you want to leave outside the coffee shop. So, for your way to work, where you, and in street traffic too, where you can't go in a tuck, where you really need to see around you, where, street and where aerodynamic is not so much a question, and where you don't have to be in a tight tuck to use all your muscles, a beater bike, a commuter bike might be more appropriate, where you sit up, you can look around you, you are more visible also, and it's easier, you might not want to have cleats because it's easier to stop really quickly.
Exactly.
So there might be room for more than one bike in everybody's life.
Well, a lot of my friends have a fleet. Yes. Because you're right.
I have to admit to a few bikes too.
I'm sure you do. And I like that notion of maybe cleats aren't for you if you're commuting. I know I have a friend
it's really true. It can actually get dangerous.
Yes, because you're stopping and starting all the time. It's a real
and
pain.
if you're not really skilled with getting your cleats off and on, you can literally stand there and fall over because you have to stop so often. Yeah. And so I, for instance, don't even do cleats.
Well, and those are great points. And again, I really appreciate that you would help a potential customer kind of think through all of that instead of just shoving them onto something.
And it's also people still have very different notions about what it means to bike. Yes, for a lot of people it means Lycra. For a lot of people, so it's not only that they have to invest in the bike, but it's also in all the accessories that come with it. And you can actually, if you have a bike, if you have a pair of comfortable shoes, a pair of comfortable pants, or a comfortable skirt that you can move in and that is not too tight, you can bike in it.
Good information, because I am a road bike rider. I am a Lycra wearer.
Yes.
I admit it. And I resisted for a while. But the point is that as such a cyclist, I come at things from that point of view. And so I appreciate your sharing your perspective, so that to say anybody can bike, you don't need to go that route. And so I appreciate that. So, your store was recently named the best urban bike shop in the U.S. by Bicycle Retailers and Industry News. That's quite an honor. What do you attribute that to?
I think it's a little bit the concept behind the store, because if you look at our store, it looks really radically different than any other bike shop. When we started the store, our first really high example that we never reached was an Apple store, you know.
Oh.
So white, so clean, so bright. Stuff was like very accessible. Well, it's also really expensive to do that. So we thought like a nice boutique. How about we create like, we don't think bike shop, we think boutique, which just might be a highfalutin concept, but the idea that we have put some carpets in our store. We wanted it bright and well lit. We wanted it to be clean. We wanted people able to touch the bike and to walk around the bikes. And so we tried to put all that into the bike shop. We didn't want to have too much advertising that could distract from the bikes, because the bikes are really the star in the shop. We wanted to be also a kind of one-stop shop. So what do you need? Well, if you bike with your kids, you need a kid seat, you need kids helmets, you need gloves, you need a raincoat. And so we tried to build it around that. The idea, it's like I can go in the shop, I can leave with my bike, and I'd be ready even if it starts to rain.
Interesting. Good
that was
concept.
the idea, yeah.
Now, we can't, why don't you talk about some of the bikes that you do carry? Because you carry very utilitarian bikes. So what are some of those? You talked about the folding bike and the 16-inch wheels.
Yes. So we, most of the brands I'm going to mention are probably not that well known, because we, what also differentiate us, we're not a brand shop. So very often, like the big bicycling brands, you know, your Trek shop or your Specialized shop or your Giant shop, meaning that you have all the lines of that one brand. So from mountain bike to road bike, you have everything.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We really focus on utilitarian and family. And so we did not so much decided, but that is only possible when you go with smaller brands. So we picked very carefully the brands that we are working with. Our flagship brand is still the very heavy, very big, very sturdy, beautiful work cycle. It's a typical Dutch bike where you can have a kid in the front, kid in the back, and some groceries on it. Then we have our bug feeds, again from the same manufacturer, work cycles. Those are the wheelbarrow bikes, where you can put up to, well, 3 to 4 kids in the front, like up to you.
I've seen that, yeah.
And then so we have several of these brands. So we have the work cycle as a bug feeds. Then we have the Christiania as a trike. Again, it's a Danish bike where you can put several kids on. Then we have extra cycles and U-bus, which are long tails. So those are the bikes that have the back wheels set about a foot farther back. So you have a long cargo rack in the back, and you can put kids on that. Those are our brands. And then for commuters, we have Linus, which is a great brand from LA. Then we have Breezer. We have Surly's for longer commutes. So it's really, so Linus and Breezer for shorter commutes, Surly for longer commutes, the long bikes if you need to commute with kids, the bug feeds if you need to commute with kids. So that is basically this roundup. And then we have 2 different folders. We have turncycles with slightly larger wheels, which is good for larger men. They normally prefer slightly larger wheels in the fold.
Sure.
And they have a more open concept when it comes to the gearing. And then the iconic Brompton, which is a 16-inch, totally thought through, filed out little system. It literally folds into a square that is 26 by 26. And it's really wonderful. And between all the 4 of us, between the 4 owners and all our mechanics and our support team, you can be sure that we test rode all of the bikes. So when we start to talk about the bikes, we really know what we're doing.
You know.
Yes. And believe me, it's like I rode most of the different kids' conveyances with kids in it, with cargo in it. So yes, I've been through it.
You know the pros and cons.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Because there always are.
Oh
now,
yes.
You've got to tell us about the hot tub, because I went on your website and you have a hot tub. So tell us how that works.
What do you want to know about it? Well, it's a wood-fired hot tub.
Yes, yes.
So it was really, really interesting. And I think that speaks also to a lot what Mychal said earlier in your program. Bicycling is a lifestyle. And we definitely do it on a different level than Mychal and the community center does it. But we want people to buy in the lifestyle. And the Dutch tub was actually a really fun way to demonstrate that. Because when you think about a hot tub, you know, you have like this plastic stationary thing, you know, that takes a lot of chlorine, a lot of electricity that is like wired up. The Dutch tub is done by a Dutch design firm, Frey, and it is basically, it has a little coil on one end where you can heat, where there's a fire basket in it, and you heat it up with wood, and then through the coil, like a distill in a way, the hot water will circulate, and it is actually a very durable plastic, and so it's actually it looks like a soup bowl in a way.
Yes.
But it is actually really light, so you can put it on a bike trailer. We will transport it to your house, and then you can have a little barbecue with your friend while the water is heating up, and you can take a dip into it, and you can also have it delivered to a park. Wherever there's a water faucet, and you're allowed to make fire. We can have it. But the idea is really behind it, and it's also why we have more clothing now. It's the lifestyle. And when we were at the Bicycle Summit last year in 2013 in Washington, the American Bicycle Summit, one speaker brought actually the idea up that we should not so much talk about the cyclist as, you know, like the urban cyclist, that we should really talk about the urbanist, because that is really where, in the cycling lifestyle, where our growth rate lies, in the inner city, where it's really not necessary to have a car because most of your trips are under 3 miles. And again, so not so much stress, car versus bicycle, it's more just the urban dweller that is very open and very susceptible to a bicycle lifestyle.
Yes, but still needs some help figuring out how to accomplish it.
Absolutely.
So the hot tub is just a neat little feature that you have, an instant party kind of thing to show, hey, look, you can do anything with the bike. You don't need a car,
you don't
or a big
need
truck,
a car and
a pickup. So, and you don't own a car.
I don't.
And so we're talking about not having a car and how that can be accomplished. Tell us about your philosophy. How did you end up not having a car?
Well, I don't even have a driver's license, I have to admit.
Well, that's certainly a start.
No, but one thing was, so my ex-husband and I, we always lived in areas in the cities, and so having a car was actually more a bother than anything else, because you always needed a parking spot. So we rented in Boston because we couldn't afford it, we were students. New York, a lot of New Yorkers don't have cars, and then we moved to San Francisco. Parking was a nightmare. And I think at one point we calculated out that over like after 12 years not having a car, we actually saved up the down payment for our house. It was about $80,000 that we saved by not having a car.
Wow.
So that is also something that Mychal talked about.
Yes.
You know, the financial pressure of actually financing a car is tremendous. So we forwent that, we saved a little bit more. We could also live closer to the necessities of life, so closer to supermarket. We could afford the slightly higher rent in the inner city because we didn't have to do the car payment. So
So these are all things to contemplate.
Yeah.
In thinking about possibly going carless.
And there's great numbers out there. If there's great research on the internet how much a car actually really costs you per month.
Yes. Yeah.
And it can be, it's much more than just the car payments, but it's insurance, repairs, tickets,
Yes,
broken glass and all that.
Parking them, yeah.
All
adds
that
up
falls away
to
when you do
a
bike.
down payment on a house.
And it's healthy too. I mean, that was something again that Mychal brought up. It is really healthier. I mean, I definitely have to watch my figure, and so I saved the gym membership and then some by just doing everything by bike. And I also have to say it's a great stress relief, because if I'm really fuming, going out for a bike ride. Now, I mean, that going on a nice long road bike, ride, how everything falls away from you. Your shoulders kind of relax.
Yes. You
really
solve
helps.
the problems of the world while you're riding, or you just
And
space
you
it
smell
out.
some roses on the way.
Yes, you do.
And you see a neighborhood. And if I really need a car, that is like the other side I really like. I actually build connections in my community, because I have no shame when I need to, ask somebody a ride to Costco. It becomes like a friend date. My neighbor and I, we can chat and catch up while we shove around Costco, load up the cars, and she doesn't need to go alone and uses her big SUV a little bit more efficiently.
And you help one another.
I can sneak a ride. And it's the same if my son needs to go somewhere, to soccer games or so on. I normally make arrangements that other moms take him, and then I take the kids on a bus trip to the Chinese garden or wherever. And they normally like that. It's really great for them. It's a big adventure.
Well, thank you, Martina. You've given us some great insight and thought-provoking comments about how to think about going carless, why we might do that, and how we might do that. And I'm sure you would welcome people to come to Clever Cycles on Hawthorne to talk some more about it. Thank you for joining us. I hope you've come away with some information that you can use. And I hope to see you out on the road and you're out riding even during these winter months. Maybe we'll all join Martina on Seattle to Portland come next July.
Ooh, I would like that.
We get out there riding our bikes. Join Bruce Buffington and I on bike rides through Portland Wheelman Touring Club. Go to pwtc.com to look for our names and join us on bike rides. And thank you for supporting Northwest Bicycle Safety Council. We promote safe riding. We've talked about that a little bit and saw that good video on how to ride safely, using your signals and wearing a helmet and being predictable when you ride, and considering yourself a vehicle when you're on your bike. Thank you for joining us.